All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brooks Iago, and welcome to my presentation on
the
Florida scrub and pine habitats. For our scrub habitat, we went to Leonia Preserve
the Florida
Trails.
scrub habitat that we saw was at the Leonia Preserve Trails. So this is just a nice little map of that right here.
Here's a nice landscape photo just to get a general idea of the scrub habitat and how it has both sandy patches and patches with more vegetation. Here you can see that this ecosystem can have patches of super dry and super sandy soil. Here you can see what I believe to be parts of the Leonia Preserve that were starting to be a little bit more maintained than the rest of the preserve. For our first plant, we have the American beautyberry, or the Calocarpa americana. This plant gets fairly large and has bright, vibrant purple colors. Very easy to look at, very easy to identify. And this plant and its berries have been used to treat colic symptoms such as a stomach ache. This is spotted horseman, or Monarda punctata. If you look closely at the leaves, you can see the tiny little dots that give this plant its name. And this plant is naturally high in thymol and can be used to treat cold and flu symptoms. Here we have the Carolina holly, or the Ilex ambigua. These were fairly common throughout the ecosystem and can be easily identified by their bright red holly berries, and they are often used for ornamental winter displays. Then we have the prickly pear cactus, or the Opuntia austrina. These were found in more drier and sandy parts of the scrub ecosystem, and the fruits on these plants are called tunas. Next we have the Florida rosemary, or the Ceratolia ericoides. This stuff was also found in the drier and sandier parts of the scrub ecosystem, and when it was found, it was often found in big batches like the ones you can see here, and this plant was once believed to help improve memory. Next is rusty staggerbush, or Leonia ferruginea. This is what the whole preserve is named after, so this stuff was everywhere, obviously characterized by its rusty color on the leaves and stem, and the stems of these are commonly used to manufacture fake foliage plants used in interior design. Here we have American burnweed, or Erectitis hierarchifolius. These plants are interesting. They also have medicinal properties. Their oil can be used to treat wounds, poison ivy rashes, and other medicinal properties. Here we have our sand live oak, the Quercus geminata. Super easy to spot because of its really curled leaves. So the leaves are really skinny and really curled inwards, as you can see in this photo here. These plants were also pretty dominant in the scrub habitat, as they are home to hundreds of different species. This is a myrtle oak plant, or the Quercus myrtifolia. This and oaks in general are more likely to be hit by lightning, which is probably why Florida is pretty high up there in the rankings of most lightning strikes in North America. They have shiny tops of their leaves, and their leaves are kind of in an oblong shape. This is the featherbush lionia, or Lionia lucida, and these plants make really small flowers that are very important for pollinators. This is the scrub palmetto, or the Sable etonia, and there is a lot of talk that these can help in being used for prostate medicine, but there is little to no research on that yet. This is deer moss, or Cladonia evensi. and it is named because of its essential part of the deer's diet. So, deer eat a ton of this stuff. This is the shiny blueberry plant, or Vaccinium myrsinites, characterized by super tiny, shiny leaves. These are high in sugars and high in vitamin C. And finally, we have the sand pine, or the Pinus clausa, probably the most predominantly seen plant in this scrub habitat. Their low branches help promote hot fires that kind of act as stand replacement fires, where they wipe everything out and then grow it all back new. Moving into the fauna of the scrub habitats, we have the eastern towhee, or the Papilio erythropothalamus. This was spotted through, as you can see, through some vegetation here, and it was characterized by its black head, darker brown body, and a lighter tan underbelly. Some more photos of it here for you. This was seen pretty much as soon as we walked in, or heard rather. And then there's a nice video here that I saw it again. Next we have our Florida scrub jay, or the Aphelocoma coruculans, the star of this habitat. I think most of us were pretty lucky to be able to see and almost interact with these birds. They're very friendly. They'll come right up to you. Here's one. He was kind of just prancing around the sand, foraging, which goes to show how important it is to keep this habitat, to keep those sandy patches of the habitat, because that's where they do a lot of their foraging for nuts, seeds, insects. That's where they get a lot of their food. I think this one was also picking at some things in the ground. You can see him there on the hunt. And then here is a video of him as well. Next we have the gopher tortoise, or the Gophurus polyphemus. We love these. They are a keystone species, and they're very smart. They've got to be able to navigate, burrows that can go quite deep. We saw this one towards the end of the trail, kind of tucked away in the sand, but we also saw maybe 3 or 4 burrows while we were walking around. And again, here is a video. Just showing him. There was a gate up because I think, obviously they didn't want people going into that part of the habitat, but we were able to get a good look at him. And then we have the 6-lined race runner, or the Espidocellus sexleonatus. This is a great picture showing the blue belly of the adult 6-lined race runner. These are extremely fast and have been clocked at up to 18 miles per hour, which is absolutely insane. And this is showing a better picture of those 6 lines that it's named for. And that takes us into our pine flatwoods of Florida. We went to the Hall Scott Regional Preserve to observe this habitat. And here are some landscape photos. It pretty much looked like this in any direction you turned. There was some areas where it got a little bit wet, but this was the general theme of the whole ecosystem, with lots of longleaf pine everywhere that you could turn. So starting off with the flora, we have our bottlebrush thrion, or the Aristida spiciformis. These were widely spread out. They were kind of mixed in with the grasses. And these start popping up really quickly in places that have been most recently burned. And then we have the vanilla plant, or the Carphophorus odoratismus. What you're looking at here is the young stages of this plant, or the non-flowering stages, I should say. It does eventually grow into this purple fluorescent plant that is really pretty, and it flowers in September, which is why we were probably seeing a bunch of it while we were there. Next up is Catesby's lily, or Lilium catesby. This was a beautiful pine lily that we stumbled across just sitting out in the open by itself. This is the largest flower of any North American lily, and this species in particular has that orangey, reddish, yellow tones to it. Up next is the shortleaf rose gentian, or the Sabbatia brevifolia. At first, I got this confused to be tarflower, but after I looked at it a little bit closer, I was able to correctly identify it. And these have a nickname of white delights. Next, we have the pawpaw, or the netted pawpaw plant, Asimina reticula. These have, in their mature stages, have the largest tree fruit in North America. Up next is rustweed, or Polyprimum procumbens. This stuff was fairly dominant as well. It exists in this form, in a green form, which was also everywhere, and it turns this rusty color in response to increased sunlight exposure or increased drought exposure, so basically hot or dry conditions. Here we have the short-stemmed meadow beauty, or the Rexia petiolata. These were pretty little light purple to light pinkish flowers that would also kind of stand alone throughout the grasses in this habitat. An interesting fact about these is that bees do not go directly into them and pollinate them. They actually buzz really hard right by them, and that's how they pollinate the plant. Here we have chalky blue stem, the Andropogon capillipes. This stuff was everywhere when we were first walking in. It kind of like bordered the trail almost, which is why it actually helps prevent erosion in these types of ecosystems a lot, and flooding. And it's known for producing a chalk when you touch it, as you can see here, which obviously gives it its name. Going into the fauna of this ecosystem, this is the little wingless grasshopper, or the Gymnoscertitis pusillus, and these guys can cause a lot of damage if their populations have synchronized hatching on the crests of ridges. Next, we have a species of darkling beetle. This in particular is Polopinus ingens, and this beetle can release stinky odors in self-defense if something comes too close. Here we have a banded garden orb weaver, or an Argiope trifasciata. These spiders position themselves to maximize solar radiation for heat gain, and they are really interesting spiders. The coloration on these is amazing. Next we have a Pine Woods tree frog. I saw these in this color, in a darker color, and also this guy in the light green got a photo shoot as well. He is having some great camouflage there, blending right in, and he was just a joy. Finally, we have our mischievous grasshopper, the Schistocerca damifica. These are very strong flyers, and they almost look like they have no